There's a lot of underserved communities out there, and we're in the heart of some of them. And you go through these areas, and every business has bars on the windows and roll-up doors. And I don't want that. I want them to know that this is their laundromat. This is their neighborhood laundromat. And it's as much a part of the community as they are. And that's how I want it to be perceived. I mean, the community is what makes any business do well or not do well.
From Fiore Communications, it's How I Got Here, a show of inspiring stories from Tallahassee area leaders, business owners, and neighbors, all the challenges, opportunities, inspirations, the twists and turns of life that led them to where they are today. Everyone has a story worth telling, and I am really grateful that we get to bring a few of them to you. I truly have been changed by my conversations with these amazing people, and I'm confident you will be too. I'm Dave Fiore, and in this episode, I speak with Dan Campbell, owner of Wash Around the Clock. Dan's journey into the laundry business began in Jacksonville as the youngest of 5 brothers. After excelling in multiple sports, including being a state champion discus thrower, Dan was invited to walk on at Florida State and play football for legendary coach Bobby Bowden. His time on the FSU campus included being part of FSU's first national championship team in 1993, but more importantly, it was where he met his wife, Collette. After college, Dan had great success selling ads in the Yellow Pages, which helped the couple make a series of smart investments in real estate and small business, which eventually led to building their clothes cleaning empire 1 quarter at a time. Dan loves football, travel, and adventure, but his priorities are clear and strong: faith, family, and making a difference in the community. Much like the slogan of the Sunrise Rotary Club he recently served as president, Dan likes to do good and have fun. We started our conversation talking about growing up in Duval County.
So my mom still lives in the house I was born and raised in. I wasn't born in the house, you know what I mean. Right in the St. Nicholas area, which is if you were to jump into the river at the Gator Bowl and swim straight across, you'd kind of come out in my neighborhood.
Okay.
We weren't on the river, but it was just a great traditional 70s, 80s neighborhood. Kids everywhere. We all had our bikes, and we, built ramps, and we dug pits, and we didn't have snakes to put in the pits, so we'd go catch toads and put them in the pits, and we'd, do the bike, the jumps over. We'd have, days where you leave at 8 o'clock in the morning, and Mom said, be home before dark, and you got home right at that moment before you got in trouble.
Right.
Usually. And just a great childhood, great kids, great friends. A lot of these guys are still friends to this day, which is really cool. I feel honored by that because a lot of most of that group still lives in Jacksonville. Obviously, I came to Tallahassee and never left, but we've still got such a great little friend group that communicates and Facebook and text messages. It's been good.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a great childhood. I'm the youngest of 5.
Okay.
And so 4 of them came out in 5 years, and I think I was an welcome to Florida baby. And
How long was the gap?
5 years.
Okay.
So 4 and 5 years, and then a 5-year break for me.
4 and 5 years.
Yes.
That's a lot of babies.
Yes, a lot of babies, and we're all spread out. New England, Virginia, North Carolina, and then one of my brothers still lives in Jacksonville, as well as my mom. Unfortunately, we lost my dad almost 6 years ago.
Okay.
But, still, we don't get together nearly as often as we'd like because we're so spread out. But when we do, we kind of just pick right back up where we left off and, have great conversation, some good arguments. But we can do that without resentment and without fighting and without, we love it.
So what was family life like? Was it traditional, like home for dinner, and what did your mom and dad do? What kind of paint us that picture?
Yeah, so Mom was a homemaker from day one. She, she and Dad raised 5, great kids, all still married to our first wives, and I think she has 9 grandchildren. And it was we'd sit down to dinner, and phone rang, don't touch that phone. Dad, if Dad was there. Now, my dad worked shift work, so depending on the time frame of our of my childhood. Sometimes he was working midnight to 8. Sometimes he was working 4 to midnight. I was probably the one that benefited most from his presence because at maybe late elementary, middle school time frame, he got the day shift.
And we'll get into this obviously later, but you were an athlete growing up with sports. And was that part of the dynamic of your family? Were you all athletic?
Well, very athletic. I think the funniest part of that is that my 4 older siblings were all cross country and track stars. And Chris and Kevin, my 2 oldest, Kevin and Chris, Kevin's oldest, the 2 oldest were, we went to Bishop Kenny High School, were just recently number 1 and number 2 on the all-time cross-country list for 35 years before they and they're still in the top 10. Just very, very talented. Kevin is built a little more like me, so I think he probably had to work a little harder than my brother to be on that list. Chris still runs to this day. He and his daughter Elena do 20 to 30-mile treks through the Virginia mountains at times, and it's amazing. He's done like 80,000 miles in his life. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
It's like a car. He's like a car.
Gets oil changes
at
scheduled times.
The theory is that my mom just kept cooking for 5 kids as each one left, and I would just pick up the difference. And so I got a little bigger and a little, so most of my elementary experience was baseball, soccer, and basketball. I loved basketball, but I was never any good at it at that age. I didn't really become good at it until I stopped playing. But I was always kind of the little chubby kid, a little, just willing to work hard, certainly willing to go the distance with somebody bigger and better and stronger and faster. I was really good at baseball. I think I kind of burned out by the time I got to high school, but I was a good catcher, pretty good pitcher, good first baseman as a lefty. So I probably could have done something with baseball, but at that point I was so itching to play football because I was never allowed to play football in elementary school because you had to go by weight. Mm-hmm. And so I was going to be playing with these, 15, 16-year-old kids like an 11, 12-year-old.
Right.
My mom's like, I don't think that's a good idea. I'm like, come on, Mom, I can do it, And so I remember my first day, getting to high school, I was like a champagne bottle that had been shaken up for years. I was just so ready to go out and hit somebody just to see what it was like. I didn't know if I was going to do any good at it or not. But fortunately, I hit them pretty hard, and it was a great experience. But yeah, baseball, basketball, soccer. I was actually a really good goalie in soccer. Thought I was going to play high school soccer, but a bad experience with my first quarter of my freshman year grades kept me off the soccer team, and I think that was sort of one of the, as I reflect back, one of God's we're going to keep you out of that environment for your high school career. I think it was a blessing that took me a little while to recognize, but it was definitely a blessing in disguise.
Okay, good. All right, so I do want to just dive in for a second. I know you went to Catholic schools growing up. How did that experience shape you during those years?
I mean, the Catholic school experience, which was great. I loved Bishop Kenny. I went to Assumption, which if you're looking at an aerial, is actually on. They and Bishop Kenny share a property right there in the St. Nicholas, San Marco area.
Right.
And again, great friends. I was sort of always I was never a great student. I did good enough. Little troublemaker. I knew my principal better than I probably should have at elementary school. Got enough trouble. But
so were you a talker or were you?
Oh, I was a talker.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but great high school, really great high school experience. But you had asked me about sort of how going through a Catholic school had developed me, and it definitely helped me just foundationally. I think it's important for every young person to sort of learn that process, learn their faith on their own. I think it's a personal journey, and so ironically went to 13 years of Catholic grade school and high school, but during I guess my sophomore year, there's a program called Search, which is a retreat program for high school kids. And it sort of united Catholic kids, not all that went to Bishop Kenny, just everybody. St. Paul's at the beach. And, what's cool about Jacksonville, there's a lot of Catholic parishes. We actually had our own Catholic grade school league. That's how many teams there were. But, you meet kids from all over Jacksonville that didn't go to your school and all kind of shared a faith. But in that process, that search process, that is really where my personal relationship, as I would now call it in hindsight, really started to develop, where I saw, Jesus working in my life and the blessings that I had often that I didn't feel like I deserved, the guardian angelship that I have had carry me through many, just challenging times. And so it was there that that I really developed my faith. And you know, I look back on it now. I mean, that's what led me to meeting my wife and the family that I have, and a lot of the relationships that I had to this day were all sort of founded on that decision to move forward in my faith.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it's very important to me.
Yeah, yeah. Still, and obviously still to this day.
Yeah,
Yep.
oh, absolutely.
Yep. All right. So now we'll talk about the transition to going to college, which can sidetrack a lot of those best intentions of life for a lot of people. All right. So how did you end up at Florida State? You were obviously playing football in high school. I know you had some opportunities perhaps, but you chose to come to Florida State. Tell us about that process.
It's a great story. Again, kind of another God story. I had 4 different head coaches in 4 years at Bishop Kenny. My varsity, so I played JV as a freshman, I think like most kids, varsity sophomore through senior. And by my senior year, I was pretty good. I mean, I was no help at all from coaching or administration. They didn't know anything about football. You know, unfortunately, our senior year, we brought back a coach from the 70s, really the last coach that had some success, but he was at a small college. They had just won a national championship.
And you're playing defensive line.
I'm
right?
playing, yeah. So I played everything. I was a punter, a good average. I was offensive tackle, and really good at defensive line, defensive end. Turned out I kind of realized maybe, by Christmas time I wasn't going to, could have been earlier than that I wasn't going to get a scholarship offer that I was I would have gone anywhere, UCF or App State or some smaller school. Those are smaller schools at the time. I'd have been happy. I'd have been thrilled. And because I knew I wanted to play college football. One thing that I always did my senior year is I kind of scouted who their best prospects were on the other team. And I was like, Coach, I want to be on that guy. And, my goal was to make sure that my film was never used for them. Right. Like I would go in with a mission to wreck them.
Yeah.
And I was good at that. And so Alabama kind of recruited me to be a walk-on. And I was, never went there, but the coach came in, talked a little bit. And then, of all things, I was going through the cafeteria lunch line. And the lunch lady at Bishop Kenny said, hey, Danny, what are you doing tonight? I said, nothing. She goes, well, Ronnie Cottrell's going to be coming in and speaking at the Seminole Booster meeting, across at the Times Union Center. Do you want to come meet him? I was like, well, who is that? She goes, well, he's a recruiting coordinator for Florida State. So I was like, yep. And so, went home, got cleaned up, put on my Z Cavarici suit. Remember those?
No.
I was feeling pretty good.
You're what?
Z Cavarici? You don't remember Z Cavarici? It was like the brand back then.
Yeah, I think I must have been. We're just different enough in age. I guess I missed that era.
Well, people my age are going to be like, oh, yeah, I remember the Z Cavarici. Anyway.
Okay. I just remember leisure suits when I was a kid.
I was feeling pretty good. And so I go to this meeting, and I remember Ronnie, Linda is there to introduce me. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of sort of like the quarterback club, kind of just the networking, socializing before the meeting actually starts. And Ronnie's got his back to me. And
so you actually went with the lunch lady?
I just met her there. My mom dropped me off. I probably drove. I was a senior. Yeah, so I probably drove.
But that was nice that she made a connection.
Yeah, well, she was the president of the Booster Club that year.
Oh, okay.
Of all things.
Yeah, nice.
And so Ronnie's back's to me, and he turns around, and he sort of sizes me up. And the first words he ever said to me was, man, I sure hope you're a player. And I mean, just immediately. And by the way, up until that moment, I was as obnoxious a Florida Gator fan that you have ever met in your life.
Well,
I'm telling you,
that's a pretty high bar.
It's a high bar. I mean, Jacksonville has some of the most obnoxious Gator fans
for sure.
God bless them. And but it was so we talked. He said, "Can you come out this weekend?" I'm like, "Yep." Yeah, I had no idea if I can come out this weekend, but kind of on a mission. And so we came out and had a conversation, and he said, we'd love for you to come walk on here and let's see what you can do. And I said, I'm in. So I immediately went to whatever the athletic store was in Jacksonville. I don't think it was whatever it was. I threw away all my Gator stuff that day.
You were a Seminole.
I was a Knoll. But you had asked sort of how, your faith, college, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a great I love this story. I've told this story a lot because it's just a testament to when you when you put your faith in God, even when you kind of steer in other directions, he can sort of nudge you back.
Yeah.
But I started out, I was like, I'm in college now. Kind of like what you said, I'm in college. I can do what I want. I don't need to go to mass. And so maybe, 4, 5, 6 weeks, whatever it was, I was just doing my own thing. And every Sunday, I'd hear my mom's voice in my ear. You should be going to mass. You should be going to mass. I was like, whatever. But I'm telling you, just nothing went right. School was tough. School was tough, and meeting people. I mean, I was having a good time, but just the fulfillment.
Yeah,
was there was an emptiness that took me a few weeks to recognize, and so finally, whatever day it was, I went to I looked probably Yellow Pages. I know I didn't look on my phone. St. Thomas More, 6 p.m. Student mass. I went to mass. And was just, the music was amazing. The service was amazing. It was, lots of people for the summer, which was amazing. And even, fall and spring, even better.
Yeah.
And literally, maybe that day or the next week, one of my best friends to this day comes up to me and he's like, Mike, he goes, dude, do you play football? I'm like, yeah. He goes, you want to go to the Sinks on Tuesday? I'm like, sure. And I mean, that was it, man. We were, we've been good friends ever since. And he's still here in town. And
what an iconic place for one of your first Tallahassee experiences.
Oh yeah,
the Leon Sinks.
It was awesome, and so we spent many a day down there, and it was just such a great experience.
Yeah,
and that brought me to a whole kind of different friend group than if I had come here on a full scholarship. I would have been isolated. I would have been at Burt Reynolds Hall the whole time, which was great. I lived there for a couple years. But I look back on it now. I mean, I think when I was in the moment, I don't know what the right emotion was, but I felt like I had earned a scholarship before. I did ultimately get a scholarship. I had felt I had earned it before I got it, which is probably human nature. But I competed well. I worked hard. I was a good teammate. I mean, I could play. I mean, but in hindsight, I look back on my college experience, and it was so vastly different than the guys I played with in a good way. I mean, I worked a job for 40 hours a week, played football, and went to school full time. I had friends. I did stuff outside of the program.
So you didn't have an NIL deal?
No NIL deal. No. It's funny when I got my scholarship, I had sit down at a little office like this, and Brian Mand, rest in peace, was the compliance director. And so and this is all I had been working for. This is like what I had come here to do, is earn a scholarship.
Right.
I wanted to call my dad and say, hey, you're off. I'm off the payroll.
And we'll be right back. How I Got Here is sponsored by Barano Heating and Air Conditioning in Tallahassee. I've been friends with Patrick Barano since we met in a chamber leads group about 15 years ago. I'll admit that I pursued him pretty hard to be his marketing firm and eventually won him over. And the reason I wanted to work with him is that I was already a customer and I knew what kind of company he and his father before him had built. He cares about his customers, he cares about his team, and he cares about this community. I've experienced Barano Heating and Air when they installed a complete system replacement a few years ago, and I enjoy peace of mind and same-day service with my Total Comfort Service Agreement. I've also been behind the scenes at their office and seen firsthand the true character of this company. And that's why we're so proud to represent them. To learn more or to schedule an appointment online anytime, visit baranoac.com. They really always will be there for you. And now back to the show. Well, your timing was good because just as you came to school, you were entering what we FSU fans call the dynasty years. Our first national championship in '93 with the great Charlie Ward at the helm. So you got to experience a lot of fun years. Tell us about that. This wasn't old Florida State. This was the beginning of what we have known Florida State to be over the last couple decades.
And I mean, maybe I came in right at the 30% mark because we had Dion and those Fiesta Bowls where we went out there and destroyed. It was before I was even. Remember, I wasn't a fan. I didn't follow.
Right. That was probably, I think, 88, 89.
Yeah.
Maybe,
so I mean, so my true freshman year, I was a defensive lineman. I think it was the spring game where they brought me over and said, Dan, I think offensive guard might be a little better for you. And there was a play in the spring game that I vividly remember with Eric Terrell that probably made me realize the same thing. He caught a little screen pass. I played it perfectly, shed my blocker, and I'm just thinking, like in high school, I'm going to murder this guy. I'm literally just going to kill this kid.
Right.
And the next thing I know, I'm sitting on the turf with a face full of grass, and I kind of look. I don't even know what the move. I don't remember the
what he did.
What he did. I just remember seeing his feet running away from me, and I'm like, that guy's different. Yeah. And Eric Terrell was such a great athlete. So I moved over to the offensive line, my 92, 93. It's funny. I do wear this ring because it's the one people, and I don't wear it that often, but people say, oh, yeah, I want to see the ring. This is when they say I want to see the ring, this is what they're talking about.
Right.
And but really 94, 95, my junior and my senior year, I played in every game those 2 years. So I was a solid backup to Lewis Tyre, who was one of the best guards we've ever had. Mm-hmm. Started a bunch of special teams. But, it was really, the first 2 years I played in a lot of games, but cleanup work. I'd get in there, and it was fun. I was ready to go, kind of like, hey, who knows? It was just a great experience. Everybody got along. There were, you'd have fights, you'd have battles, you'd have wars.
Right.
But, the 93 game was just such a culmination of so many missed opportunities. And then coming off the Notre Dame loss and then, seeing Boston College beat Notre Dame and then us destroying NC State that next week. And it was like, okay, we're going to have a shot.
All right, so something else pretty important happened to you while you were on campus around this time.
It did.
You met a certain young lady.
I did.
You met your wife, Collette. So tell us about that story.
Yeah, so I met Collette in the fall of 1994. She had just gotten here. She was actually still 17 when I met her. She turned 18 in November. But I had had a relationship with a girl prior to her getting here, and just
she knew about it, right? We're not breaking news here.
No, this is not breaking news. This is not breaking news.
All right, good.
And it just didn't go great. It wasn't great. And so at a church event. At that point, I'm a few years older than Collette. I'll back the story up. So the very first event that the Catholic Student Union had in 1994, I remember seeing her. So I know exactly where she was sitting on the floor the first time I saw her, and which is cool because we still go to church there today. And so, my kids now all scoff and roll their eyes because they've heard the story 10,000 times. But right there, guys, right there,
right there.
But fast forward, we kind of became friendly, but fast forward not long. I shared just kind of my story of, had this relationship. It wasn't great. And she actually approached me and said, hey, can we talk? And she had a similar experience. And so, we just started talking, and that sort of developed into a really amazing friendship, which developed into a romance, which is still going on to this day. And so I really couldn't be 1,000 times out of 1,000, I couldn't do better. I'm so happy that I met her that day and that she's just a great partner, a great spouse, great mother, great friend. She's, so it's been, because when you're an entrepreneur, as you know, it takes a special kind of person to sort of understand the way the mind of an entrepreneur works. And so
it never really turns off.
Correct.
It's a different thing.
Yeah, it is a different thing. And so, as I look back, it's just, it's been a great ride. Ups and downs like every marriage.
Sure.
Meet people that have been together over 30 years of this. Yeah, we've never had a fight. I'm like,
You may want to look into that.
But, it just, she makes me better. But it was just a great time in my life because, it was just different. You date girls and you have, and then you meet somebody that just changes everything, and that's what it was.
Yeah. Same thing with my wife. When I met her, I knew it was just completely different, complete game changer from that moment. All right. So after graduation, you start selling ads for the Yellow Pages.
I did. Right? Found this opportunity, applied for it. They were hiring 2 people. There were a lot of applicants, 50 or 60, I think. And I just remember feeling bad for the other, 59 guys. Because I'm going there and I'm going to get this. And And I don't know if that charming personality is what got me the job, but but I got the job, and it was really cool. I mean, they sent me up to Charlottesville, Virginia for 8 weeks. This is probably August of '96, and just trained from people from all over the R.H. Donnelly organization, and I was a telephone sales rep, and so you kind of worked on the smallest ads that you had, smaller book of business, but really small base salary, decent commission structure, and I did really well. First year, second year, third year, all President's Awards, trips all over the place. So I'm the bottom of the totem pole. I hadn't gotten any promotions at this point. It wasn't anything, but one of the top dogs left, and there had been guys that had been here for forever, and I go to my mentor that gave me that advice, and I said, "Hey, this is an opportunity, a big opportunity, much bigger book of business, much bigger economic impact." I said, "But there's been like 2 or 3 guys here that, I mean, it's got to be theirs, right? I mean, like there's no." And he's like, "Well, if you don't try, how are you ever going to know?" It's like, okay, so I threw my name in the hat. Guys were laughing and whatever, but I went in, I prepared, I had the resume, I had got my suit. Not my Z Cavarici, no.
No.
I had upgraded.
It wasn't that kind of event.
I had upgraded by then,
yeah.
And, I went in, and sure enough, they promoted me like literally 6 spots. Probably didn't make a whole lot of Christmas card lists with some of my colleagues.
So during this time, you get married, you start investing in some rental property, start building that up as additional income and investment.
Yep. So the timeline-wise, we got married in February of '98. So 28 years coming up in February. Okay. Very excited for that. 31 years of being together in October. And our daughter, our oldest was born in January of '01. And in April of '01, we bought our first rental.
Okay.
And then probably in '01, '02, we probably acquired 4 or 5. We were moving as quick as we could. Our son came later in '02. So they're not quite Irish twins, but they're close. And we took a long break before Jessica. And so I met a couple guys that were doing development, and Steve Dawes is still here in town, but Robertson Dawes Construction. And Steve's like, I got these properties. I'm kind of looking to do more development. And so we worked out, he owner financed a little bit, and we put some, it made it work. And
right.
So, all of a sudden we went from like 4 or 5 units to like 15 units. And so and back then it was just, it wasn't like today where you have housing everywhere. It was almost like Priceline. I just put a rental sign out, name my own price, and people are like, "Yep, we'll take it." And so I enjoyed it. I mean, I would work till 5, 6, 7 o'clock, and I would come home, give Collette and the babies a kiss, and then I would hook my trailer up to my truck, and I would head out, and I would do lawn maintenance at all the properties till 11, 12. You had a flashlight on my head. It was it just kind of it's what you had to do. And learned a lot. Ultimately, in that same before I left Donnelly, we had found a car wash and mini storage that was on the market pretty reasonably over in Greenville, Florida. So about 40 miles east of here, and had no idea about either of those businesses other than I had read a little bit about both of those from Kiyosaki, and like was able to pay the bills. We were, but still struggling. I was still working at Donnelly, so a lot of extra, weekend hours, and you would bring the kids out there. They were big enough to grab the wands and spray out the bays and do some of the work. So we've always tried to incorporate the kids into what we've done since basically day one. And a couple of years later, there was a car wash for sale in Havana. This is probably '02, maybe a year later, '02, '03. And we took that over. Really had high hopes. Havana was a much bigger market than Greenville. And kind of the same thing. We made a pretty big investment in that we turned one of the bays into an automated, kind of gas station style automatic car wash. Again, not what we have today. And it just struggled. Just didn't. I was like, man, this is 0 for 3 because mini storage was tough. Both car washes, 0 for 2, 0 for 3.
Right.
And I was like, well, real estate's still doing okay. Making some progress there. And so it's like, I think I'll get my realtor license. I think maybe that'll give me an advantage. You hear about guys getting pocket listings or hearing about things before they go on the market. In that process, we had an opportunity to manage roughly 200, 250 units at FAMU. And, doing all the math, I was like, man, I was still working. I was like, this is gonna more than replace my income. Plus, we had already been doing okay with the rentals. I'm like, all right. So, I go out, I get Collette. It was a certified pre-owned with 62 miles on it, like a brand new Honda Odyssey.
Right.
We have 2 kids now.
Yeah.
And I get myself a brand new Chevy 2500. 2 very poor decisions in hindsight.
So you see a lot of money on the horizon. You make some big purchases.
Right. Start the plan to, I'm like, again, back to Kiyosaki. He was sort of the first person that landscaped my mind in this way. He's like, when your passive income replaces your working income, you're basically out of the rat race. And I'm like, I think we're there. Now, granted, property management is not passive by any means, just like laundromats are not passive by any means. I get a lot of that, like, oh, it's a great passive business. I'm like, yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
But so in October of 2003, Collette and I, together, we try to, our sort of, one of the things that's really worked for us, and actually, I think Jim Heidenreich gave us this advice. He goes, you always want to be in enthusiastic agreement when you make a decision to do something.
Sure.
And that we have carried that with us. And so, Jim, if you're listening, thank you. It was a great tool that's benefited us tremendously since then. And but we made the decision to leave Donnelly. And I remember, writing my resignation letter and going in and handing it to my manager. And I was just beaming. I've done it.
Yeah. And
I don't know the exact time frame. 2 to 3 months later, I get a phone call and they said, "Hey, Dan, we've decided to sell all the FAMU properties, but
great job.
Thanks."
Yeah.
And so our income went from being a little better than what I had been making to, when I say just covering our basic needs, and we lived like that for a while. Cut back. I had no cable. I think for Christmas I got the box set of Friends, and I watched Friends
on your DVD player.
On my DVD player, in a loop, probably for 2 years. So now, anytime Friends comes on, I can just read along.
Friends trivia, you're good to go.
I'm the guy. And it was, that's one of the moments in our life that really kind of reinforced that, no matter how bad it gets, as long as we're together and as long as we're on the same path, we can get through anything. And, Ashley and DJ they couldn't tell any difference. It was just a normal, we were still able to put food on the table. And so we were protected through that, but it was eye-opening, Dave.
Right.
Yeah. And so we really, it was a good experience. And then.
So you were officially back in the rat race.
I was officially back in the rat race in a big way. And now I didn't have sort of I didn't have any big income to show to be able to go out and make any acquisitions or do anything. And so it was.
So at some point, I from what I can see, you're transitioning into getting into the laundry business, right? That what would become Wash Around the Clock.
Correct.
So what was the transition you made? How did the opportunity come up? How did you get in the laundry business?
So how I got in the laundry business, we another friend from my church group had been out of town for a while, and he and I were talking, and it sort of just came up with the, hey, let's get a business together. And he knew I was busy with the family and had the rentals. Nobody really knew at that time. We weren't like bragging about our great circumstances, so nobody really knew that it was tough. And but he had, he said, hey, you keep managing that, you help finance it, I'll run it, and we'll do this together. And I said, well, let's start looking for businesses. That sounds great. And in April of 2004, I acquired, and I'll explain that in a second, the Laundry Basket, which was on the corner of White Drive in Pensacola, right next to Vinyl Fever.
Nice.
Yep. Cool spot. And the little 1,800 square foot laundromat had, 20 top loaders, the old school, had 8 front loaders. And we got this business And I said I acquired because, you know, the condition was, and once the money, you know, essentially how I convinced the bank to work with me on this. It was probably one of my greatest sales jobs. But, you know, we were able to get, and it wasn't a lot of money. In retrospect, it really wasn't a lot of money. But
at the time,
I didn't have a W-2 income anymore. We did have our investments. They were going okay. I mean, but the laundromat was doing okay. It was, I guess, profitable for the guy we bought it from. But you know, we were in there slinging quarters, counting them 2 by 2, having the great time. And so, but the agreement that me and this guy, my friend, had was he had some money coming to him, and he was going to basically buy in at half of what I bought in at, you know, and reimburse me. And you know, fast forward to, so this is April. We're sort of muddling around. Fast forward to October of 2004, and you know, sort of his involvement, participation just kind of fell apart. Never gave any money to the operation, and it fell apart. And so I was sort of there in October, not having I mean, I'd put a lot more into it already than I thought as far as just time, but I was enjoying it. It was fun. I mean, it was novelty. You know, it's all these quarters are great. I don't take quarters anywhere now. That's great. And it was, and again, these moments like if what I'm about to say hadn't happened, I really don't know if we'd be in this business. I mean, I feel like I would be doing something completely different. But there's an industry trade show, which I'm going to next month in Orlando, that happened 20 years ago this year to be in Orlando. I went around this trade show, and it exposed me to something totally different than my experience. I mean, I had this little laundromat that was, you know, it was painted orange and green on one wall, garnet and gold on another wall, and blue and gold on. You know, we're going to go. Right. We're a university laundromat here. We're you know.
Yeah.
And I walk in, and this thing, it's 1 million square feet of, you know, not only laundry equipment, self-serve laundry equipment, but this big, and I mean, tunnel washers that cost $1 million back in 2005, and you know, it was massive. Just totally changed my perspective on the industry. And so, I mean, I'm going around and see everybody, and then literally on the last day of this trade show, they're shutting lights off, and I go to the Dexter booth, which is the manufacturer, the equipment that I happen to use, which I love. And I meet a guy named Ron Jansen, who is the owner of Laundry Pro Florida. And we just strike up maybe a 20-minute conversation. I'm kind of telling him about myself. And you know, we didn't hit it off by any means. But he says, well, let's come up to Tallahassee and see what you got, you know. And so, you know, a couple weeks later, he and his sales rep Carlos come up, and like we've been friends ever since. You know, they came up and just started talking to me about just how to look at the business differently, how to make it possible to do well. And I said, okay, let's find a location. So, I mean, this is late 2005, and I mean, we didn't find anything until sometime in 2006. It took us almost a year to find a location. I mean, you know, Tallahassee, I love Tallahassee, but, you know, we're on this little island, and there's not people everywhere. It's not like other, you know.
Right.
And so it just took a little while, but we found Lake Bradford Road, 1338 Lake Bradford. And so technically that was our first retool. We got the building. The first time we got property too. You know, so we bought the building, the business, the whole thing. And there was a very successful laundromat. It's still there, right, like literally next door. I remember sitting there with Ron, and we're going to retool this whole thing. And this is, you know, now we're talking dollars that I had never even fathomed spending on an investment like this. And we're sitting at Po' Boys, and I'm looking at this thing, and it's, I don't know, what is it, $500,000, $600,000, whatever it was. And I look at the payment, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like what?
Yeah.
And Collette just looked at him. She goes, please tell me this is going to work. And he goes, trust me, it's going to work. And so we retooled it, and I mean, almost overnight, it was doing way better than we expected. And that was really that was technically the birth of Wash Around the Clock. That is when we branded
that second location.
That second location was Wash Around the Clock. First 24-hour laundromat in Tallahassee. I remember that first night we went 24 hours. I was up till probably 3 a.m, like just waiting. When are they going to come and do something bad?
Right.
And you know what? It didn't happen. And so that success brought us back to Pensacola, where we retooled the store there. And again, immediately it just started doing better. Fast forward down the road a little bit, and I don't know if timeline if this came before or after Tharp Street, but Vinyl Fever went out of business. Mm-hmm. And so I approached the Gasvinis and I said, hey, I'd like to take over more space. We were kind of in it, like all the washers dead ended at a wall, mm-hmm. and they were face to face, maybe like 4 feet across. So like two people couldn't even get back. I mean, it was just ironically, it was called the Laundry Basket before we rebranded it Wash Around the Clock. And you couldn't get two laundry baskets. It was probably the laundry basket,
right.
not
Only
two.
One.
Yeah, you couldn't get two baskets
one
down
basket.
at the same time. And so, we were able to expand that one, and it, again, it started actually becoming a profitable business where, frankly, for the first few years, it did okay, but there was no like, hey, I see a bigger picture here, until I got around some guys that had done it in bigger markets and said, hey, you got an opportunity here. And so from there, we just, it was really just those two stores. I heard through the grapevine that there was a laundromat for sale over in Quincy. And so I went and negotiated, and we acquired Aaron's Super Laundry in Quincy. We bought that sometime in 2007. So, really those three happened, Lake Bradford and Quincy happened pretty quickly. I'm trying to figure out how to really expand. There was a pretty successful laundromat here in Tallahassee, and I was like, I wonder if I could ever buy that. That would be awesome, because I knew he was, by far the biggest. We went back and forth a little bit, and it just, it just wasn't the right timing. And so I went and met Collette at the public shopping center there at North Monroe. Bill Poole had just put a big for lease sign on this building. I'm like, it's a good looking building. It's, you can actually see it from the public shopping center. And so I just went and started talking to him, and, without talking to a bank or mm-hmm. getting any verification from anybody, I signed a 25-year lease.
Wow.
So when I say entrepreneurs are sometimes wired a little differently,
Dave.
So
that's,
I guess I pulled my best Kevin Costner, if you build it, they will come,
I guess,
moment. And we took kind of a leap of faith, and I was able to convince a bank to work with me, and we started, working on, and Tharp Street, it's still to this day, it's a very special location because it was our first flagship store where we really kind of got to go in. There was no laundromat there.
Right.
It was and it's, it's a large store. It's it's one of the bigger locations in the state. Maybe not now. People keep building bigger and bigger and bigger.
But you got to put it together the way you wanted to.
Correct.
You didn't have to retrofit something.
Right. We went in and I learned, I've never done this process before. So, needed a GC to sort of help me navigate through. I mean, normally it was like, hey, what can we do? But, had to do everything right. Had 1,000 amp service put in the building. I mean, like, it was stuff I'd never, like, just way over my.
And that's where you do the commercial stuff, the linens and all that.
It is. But we didn't do that at the time.
Okay.
But, just a really, again, you don't really know what you don't know until you get into things. And so it was a huge learning process. This was just before the crash. And so I just wanted to do something that would make especially a person that comes from, there's a lot of underserved communities out there, and we're in the heart of some of them. And you go through these areas, and every business has bars on the windows and roll-up doors. And I don't want that. I want them to know that this is their laundromat. This is their neighborhood laundromat. And it's as much a part of the community as they are. And that's how I want it to be perceived. I mean, the community is what makes any business do well or not do well. And so we try to value. And one of the things I love about our payment systems is that it was a way to reward, customers for doing just what they're doing anyway. And so I could give them a little bonus if they put $20 on it, give them a little extra money, or there's a point system that gave them, free washes or other things, or just different things like that. And so it was going through that learning process. How can I maximize this stuff? That we really just started having some success in just communicating that message to customers, and hopefully we've built a brand that, and again, we're not perfect. We make mistakes and the machines break down, but we try our best to make it right. And for the 99% that understand that, it's always great. There's always that 1% that can't please everyone, Dave.
No, you cannot.
I try, but you can't.
No matter how hard you try.
Yeah.
All right. So switching gears a little bit, you're also involved in the community. You on the boards of the varsity club at FSU, Tallahassee Quarterback Club. And you're a former president of Sunrise Rotary Club.
I am.
Of which I also am a proud member. So particularly with Sunrise and a service organization like that and giving back, I know you give back directly through your business as well, but why is that important to you to be part of the community in that way, not only serving the populations that you talk about and being part of that fabric, but also being involved in philanthropic and in other ways to give back to the people of the community?
I love Sunrise Rotary. It's been such a great part of my last 16 years. I looked it up. I had to look it up. I didn't know for sure. 2009. Because it's such a, I think in most people's personal lives, we sort of congregate with people that were exactly alike, very similar belief systems
Sure.
and structures and whatever. And then I get invited to Sunrise and I get in there and it's just the diversity is amazingly cool. And yet in a world that we live in, and even back in 2009, it's even worse today, where it seems like everybody that doesn't have an exact belief system wants to bicker and argue and whatever. We get into that meeting and into that space, into that Rotary world, and all of that goes away.
You kind of check it at the door.
You check it at the door and you say, hey, we're here to do two things. We're here to do good and have fun. And how can we do that? How can we do that together? Is it through international exchange? Is it through supporting these organizations? Is it through doing a service project? Is it through throwing an event to raise money just to give out to these groups that have a need? Mm-hmm. And it's just so refreshing to be part of a group that gets together and really collaborates in a way that pushes all those external, things out the door. Mm. And we focus on just, hey, let's talk about being Rotarians today. How can we help? How can we do better? My personal passion project is, I want to see especially younger kids get more opportunities for reading resources. I need to get more involved in that. We've got a really cool project at our Tharp location right now. We're hoping to expand to other stores, but it's called a Read, Learn, and Play Center in collaboration with the Laundry Cares Foundation. And, essentially any kid that comes in there, it's a little library, but our goal is to let them leave with a book that's theirs. It's not just bring it back.
Not a rental, not a library.
It's not a rental.
Right.
And, the numbers are staggering. It's for every child under the poverty level, or for children under the poverty level, I guess is the right way to say it, there's approximately one book for every 300 children. That's pretty staggering. Yeah. Now, when you go up above the poverty line, it's like 30 books or 60 books per kid. I mean, it's
huge divide.
Huge divide. And I think if we can start there, in 10 or 15 years, it can sort of change the trajectory of where a lot of these kids are going, and hopefully we can do our part, and we have a static audience for an hour or two every time they come in, and if their kids are there and they can get benefit from that, it's a way that we can sort of help bring those two things together.
Yeah, that's great. So, all right, so I know you love Rotary, but you do occasionally miss a meeting on Tuesday mornings because you're traveling.
We do. We do like our travel if we can get out.
So I know a lot of the travel involves golf and/or wine, or some combination thereof. Also hiking, national parks. You appreciate all those great spots. So what do you love most about travel, and why do you and Collette, and I know you bring the kids a lot, why do you prioritize those experiences?
Well, first of all, exactly that. Experiences to me are so much more valuable than stuff. We love the experiences. I will say there are two different kinds of trips.
Boys trips?
Well, there are boys trips, but there are vacations, and there are trips that you bring your kids. I call those family trips,
right?
And they're amazing,
right?
But they're just a different kind of work,
and
they're awesome. We love traveling with our kids. Our kids are great travelers. We've had some incredible experiences with our kids. My son and I went to South Africa and Zimbabwe, and I cannot wait to get back there. It was it's really a place that everybody needs to go at some point to experience just how being in that wilderness and seeing those animals up close, it just changes, the way you think about things. It's just, it's like, I can't do anything here. I'm just here to, it's pretty cool. Just amazing. But it's such a great time when Collette and I can get away. We've got so many things going on here at any given time. We obviously when you own a business, you can't be off all the time. First of all, I've got just a great leadership team that wash around the clock. And so that certainly helps. But just to go and try to purposefully put some of the busyness aside and just reconnect as a husband and wife or reconnect as a family without all the noise from the exterior going on, it just changes everything. And then you get back and it's like, okay, we can keep cranking. We can keep doing it. And
all right, final two questions. Dan, looking back, what is the one thing or person that has changed the trajectory of your life to this point?
Well, I've probably got a few, but absolutely the first undisputed champion would be Collette, my wife. She has, from the day I met her until today, she has always been my biggest fan. She's always been my biggest encourager. When we dream together. We don't always have the exact same vision, but she's just such an amazing support to me, to our family. Our kids, I think, know how good they have it, but I know when they have kids, they'll realize how good they have it. She's such a great mom. She's just the best wife. So she, without question, I would not be where I am today without her in any stretch. If I go outside of the family, I look at my mom and dad. They were a little more old school, didn't communicate the same way, but, my dad rolled up his sleeves, worked really hard, put 5 kids through private school on an income that I don't know how he did it. There were no scholarships back then. There was no – so my dad's work ethic and drive, I do miss him every day. He's – it was a big loss when he was gone. Grateful that mom's still doing great. I think his teaching us work ethic by example, I think benefited all of my siblings, but I know it benefited me. And then outside, I've got several in the outside family world that come to mind. So can I say them real quick?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So my high school track coach, Steve Lyons, was really the first coach that I had that sort of just taught me how to get the most potential out of myself. Mm-hmm. And again, he didn't know anything about throwing the shot put or the discus. But he did a great job of saying, hey, if you want to be great at this, here are the things you need to do to be successful. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I could have been a lot better, but I did have some success, and I attribute a lot of that to Steve and his vision for putting me on a path to get there. Yeah, there was a mentor of mine named Bert. Rest in peace, Bert. He's the one that told me to look at someone that's been doing what I've been doing for 20 or 30 years. But he was also he and his wife, Lois, were just great mentors for Collette and I. Being young and married, they were he was actually at the Rudy game chanting Rudy's name. Yeah. Big Notre Dame fan. He still liked me being at FSU. But they were just such a great couple that sort of showed us what true married partnership looked like, 30 years down the road. Yeah. And here we are, and it's pretty amazing. And then, Ron and Carlos at Laundry Pro, that relationship, I feel privileged that in the last 10, 12 years, I've been able to sort of give back a little bit because I know a little bit. And people, hey, what do you think about this? I've been able to collaborate and consult a little bit. But even to this day, Ron and I will talk and things will come up that we've just never really thought about. Hey, what do you do about this? What do we do? He's just such a great resource. He's my laundry guru, I call him. Everybody needs a laundry guru. Everybody needs a laundry guru. And so those are the names that come to mind. But yeah, none of it would be possible without the relationship I have with Collette and the support she is for me. And when things aren't going well, to have somebody that understands that, hey, let's put our heads together and figure this out. Yeah. It's just blessed beyond words. Yeah. Yeah. All right, final question. The podcast is named How I Got Here.
We've talked to how you got to this point in your life. Where do you think here might be for you in 3 to 5 years from now?
That is a great question. It's because there are so many different possibilities. I love the business that I'm in, and I really have no interest in leaving the industry. And so if I could write the perfect script, we would be able to expand a little bit, maybe outside Tallahassee. I've always been a little bit resistant to expanding outside the market, but possibly bring on a few key players to enable that and let automation and some processes allow us to expand, but allow me to maybe do a little less day to day. And I think that would be a wonderful goal, to be able to spend a little more time doing just family stuff. Mm-hmm. And but there's everybody in business right now hears about these different organizations coming. Hey, let's I don't see that being viable for me, but I can't say it impossible. I have no idea, but we have no prospects of leaving this town. We love Tallahassee. We love going down to the coast. We're not far from the North Georgia mountains, where Collette's family has a place that we can escape to if we need to. And we're pretty blessed. We have all 3 kids living in Tallahassee right now. 2 of them are out of college, and so we're very fortunate with that. And so, I see the business continuing to grow. I mean, like I said, we're constantly trying to figure out the things that we're not doing right, and I'm sure there's more than I can come up with on a quick scale. But at the same time, we've got great people, we've got great customers, and it's just, okay, how can we touch more people in more markets that are maybe underserved, but not get to the point where we can't manage it all. So it's a great question, but ideally I'll be doing a little bit less, and maybe see a few less Tuesdays, and have some great people that are working for us that are reaping the benefits of doing that. But no matter what happens, I know I'm excited about it. So we'll see where it goes.
Thanks for listening to the show. You can subscribe at Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And while you're there, please leave us a review. It really does make a difference. Thanks to my amazing staff at Fiore Communications, who pick up the slack while I'm working on these podcasts, and to Troy Bloom for composing our theme music. You can hear more of Troy's creations on Facebook and Instagram at Troy Bloom Music. To connect with the podcast or suggest a future guest, follow us on social media or email us at podcast@fiorecommunications.com.